Welcome to the Dating Unsettled show where we dare to date differently. It's your girl, Joy, the host. You know me. We could make noises. We could make nice, yes, that's quite nice. I like that. Today is an episode about going with the flow, and I'm going to jump right into it. It's going to be a short episode today. So if you're waking up on this fine Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you're listening to this, and you're like, why is this episode half the time? Because it's kind of an unsettler request. And because I want to let Renice's episode breathe. Hello? So Renice came on last week and she talked about being polyamorous, what that relationship was like. So I'm going with the flow and I'm going to let that breathe because there were some great nuggets inside of that episode. There are things there that I want everybody to like hold on to. You know what I'm saying? There are things that I want you to remember and go back and check out. So whether you've listened to the episode absentmindedly, actively or not, I just think, being polyamorous, which is not my motion of the ocean right now, but it's definitely hers and many others. It's just an area of dating that we don't talk about a lot. Like, I had to honor, even though I am monogamous, that if we're talking about dating differently, then that's something that we got to broach. So if you're poly and you want to talk about your relationships, your styles, going from monogamy to polyamory to misandry to whatever, hop on the podcast. You can DM us at Dating Unsettled and let us know. Okay, today we're recording from the studio. For those of you who can't see, I'm currently holding up a plate with stir-fried rice, bell peppers, green onions, and 2 beef taquitos on top because they were frozen and quick. It actually looks quite nice in this light. Let's get a 4K view of my taquitos and fried rice. Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Yeah. And it's going to be a mukbang episode. Mukbang bong. Don't know where it originates, but thank you for that format because it means we can eat while we produce content. So this is going to be ASMR to some people. And this is going to be torture to some people. If you don't like the sound of people chewing, I'm letting you know right now, this is not the episode for you. This is a comedic podcast, remember? So sometimes we eat, and sometimes we make jokes. I'm recognizing as I'm doing this is really going to piss some of you off. So I don't know if this is a good idea, if I'm going to lose half my listenership or what. But those of you who like the absurd, I'm sure will stick around. Enjoy some rice with me. And I want you to start to think about your dating experiences. Think about how you enter them. Like, when you start dating a new person, you've matched with them, you swipe with them, you start the conversation. Do you immediately go, this could be something, and I want to drive this match to its furthest possible conclusion? Whether we get married, have babies, have multiple partners, enter a blood oath, get each other's names tattooed, tramp stamps, whatever you envision as your dream partnership. Is that how you start dating? When you look at people, or you kind of walk in and go, I don't know what this is, but I'm here. I'm present. I'm trying. I'm looking into it. This could be a situation. This could not be. How do you date? Like, throughout the course of this podcast, though we crack a lot of jokes, I think a lot of you resonated with my pain. You resonated with the fact that I swiped on thousands of profiles for multiple years and went on some really horrible dates and was talked to crazy. And I had my little romantic heart shut down time after time. And I think that that's some of you right now. Dating and relationships is not one single linear line. We don't just go from being young and not considered and not looked at and in love and dreamy to suddenly studied up and well-read and therapized and an expert on relationships and perfect. and then partnered happily and then never again. Some of us are going to be happily partnered in this lifetime and then become disconnected from that person, sometimes completely of our own volition and sometimes out of our control. So, as we think about getting into the next thing, and as we think about dating that next person, I just want to know, and you can message me. I like hearing from y'all. That's not just like, commercial or whatever. Like I like hearing how you date in the comments and in my messages at Dating Unsettled. Do you go into it thinking this could be something and I'm going to energetically drive everything in that direction and make sure, it turns out that way if it can? Or do you go into it with zero expectations of the other person? I'll tell you what I did, though, if you know me, you can probably already guess. I would enter every dating situation with a person that I found attractive that I was swiping on the apps, thinking, yep, all right, this could be my husband. How do I treat him as such? How do I treat him as such from the get-go? Answer was, I was a lunatic. I was a psycho. I would have loved to have come in with much fewer expectations of a partner than I did when I started dating. But I was just so excited and so energized and so romantic that I said, let's go, go, go. Let's pretend. Khalid said, show me, don't pretend. Let's pretend that you and I could be absolutely in love by the end of this. And if that's the case, how do we want to treat each other starting now? Not later, not when you think I'm worthy of it, but starting from the very beginning. What if you treated me like an absolute princess? What if I treated you like a king? How would that look? 1 date from now, 2 dates from now, three dates from now, 4 weeks from now. I was always the type of dater that wanted to start with intention and with love and with care, regardless of who that person was, because my personal philosophy is that you don't need to earn affection from me. Affection, attraction to me are these like magnetic things that I don't necessarily have control over. I don't want someone to feel like they need to tap dance and come to earn that. You don't need to shuck and jive for me to care about you. That wasn't that funny. It really wasn't. But that was my philosophy when I started dating. And I think I, a kind-hearted, romantic individual, would consistently run into guys, because I only dated guys who were rather shut down, guys who were jaded, guys who maybe because of their age, they're in their 20s, they had no experience being that romantic. They had little experience doing grand gestures or even consistent gestures. And instead, all they knew how to do was show up in one big burst. I had a lot of guys showing up in bursts. People call it sending representatives. I had guys who would appear to be everything that I was ever looking for and more. They would show up. They would give me a lot of attention, a lot of affection. They would, text me, ask me so much about my interests, about my history, about my background, about my future plans. And I would get so energized because I'm getting swept up. I'm like, oh my God, all these texts, he's doing quote unquote all the right things, right? He's taking all the steps. He's showing that he likes me. He wants to get to know me. And like the little romantic in me would just run with that. Is that any of you? Do you get so caught up in the moment that like you're deriving how you feel about a person not from who they are, but from what they do? Is that you? Because it was me. And so I was blinded by my own creative envisioning of each guy's potential on a dating app. I was in the dark in my own little production studio in my head about what the relationship could be, how cool he was. If I saw family, I would start to, imagine and activate and in motion and bring to life how he might interact with that family. If he said he wanted to travel, I would start to imagine dream trips like because that's how I am. I'm creative. And I would do that for every guy. There were very few, if any, situations where I would walk into it just thinking, this is what it is. And like, let's see, shrug. I arrive with presence. I arrive with purpose. It is one of the things that makes me who I am. So it's hard to compromise, nor was I really like willing to or wanting to compromise that when dating. But if this sounds like you, if you are a little bit more effortful, a little bit more intentful, a little bit more creative, oh my God, I dropped my bell pepper. I could have dropped my croissant. If that's you when you start dating, I want to encourage you to take a step back and examine the way that you approach it and critique. Because it's not that you are a problem. It's not that the way that you love is a problem. It's not that the way that you care or dream or see potential in other people is a problem. In fact, I would submit to you that that's your superpower. That's what makes you incredible. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you special. That's what's gotten you this far in life. That's what's won you the awards. That's what's helped you in your job. But when it comes to dating, I invite you to critique whether or not your ability to imagine the best of situations is actually hindering your day-to-day dating interactions. Your desire to see things through to their ultimate potential, to their end result. Is that keeping you from seeing people as they are? I'm sorry, I know you hate me for chewing, but it's a legitimate question because I think it was for me. I think I would see people's credentials, I would see something cute or fun or quirky about them, and I would extrapolate it, and I would just imagine that they were this person that they had not showed me they were yet. I would take my own expectations of how I expected a man to appear in a dating situation, how I expected a person to treat me, how I expected to feel, and I would project those into each scenario so that I could have a better time. If a man was perhaps late on a date, I would tell myself, well, you know what? I deserve X and X and X. And I wouldn't really listen, like fully listen. I would hear, but I wouldn't listen to the reasons why things didn't match the map in my head. What's a good example of this? This is like when people tell you to go with the flow and see where it goes when dating. I'm a type A person. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a high achiever, overachiever. And I'm unworking a lot of those things so that I can just rest and just be. But because I am all of those things, and because that's how my brain works, when someone tells me to kind of just, yeah, and let go and like see where things go, it's extremely triggering to me. It makes me want to shut down. Sometimes it turns me way off. Like it actually turns me off the person if they say that they have no idea what they want and they just want to see. So what was happening was I was only flocking towards swiping on, gravitating towards individuals who were very self-assured, or at least communicated that they were self-assured. And unfortunately, what you get when you do that is you are eliminating the entire range of daters who are still just kind of in between partners, figuring it out, because you're trying to shield yourself from the hurt and the pain of their indecision. Indecision doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's just a state of being. And it took me way too long to see and realize that. So instead, I optimized for people who were like very, very deliberate and vocal about telling me that they wanted to be in a relationship or potentially be in a relationship with me. What that leaves you with is two types of people: people who actually mean it and people who don't. The danger of only being attracted to self-assured people or confidently articulating people is that there are some people who don't mean you well at all. Don't. There are some people who don't. There's some people who don't mean you well. That's an in-between between like a Shrek accent and I don't know what. They don't mean you well at all. And so they will tell you what you want to hear. When you become so one-track minded to only wanting to date people who say that they want to be in a relationship, you will meet a lot of people who tell you what you want to hear. And that's what guys did. If they could see there had no room for flexibility, that it's either you tell me you want to be in a relationship with me or someone like me, or I bounce, and you're enjoying my presence and you're enjoying my laughter and my care and my affection and my benefits and my sexiness and my everything, you can only imagine what you're going to get. Liars. And so I think that there are a lot of us unsettlers who get on the internet, swipe, 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 consider ourselves open or say that we're open-minded people, but we don't move like it, come up with very specific requirements, like we talked about with hardballing, but then we only see what we want to see. And we make the mistake of not receiving people as they are, or only receiving people who communicate in black and white to us. And once they do communicate in black and white, we do this kind of confirmation bias. I really hope I'm triggering somebody. I really hope I'm triggering somebody right now.
That's unsettling.
You're acting activating a confirmation bias. Walking around expecting people to only be this or that, and never in between. Then you get really invested and you get your hopes up when they're not the black and white that you expected them to be.
That's unsettling.
When you go on a date and it's amazing and it's everything you thought, and he picks up smoothies and the flavors that you mentioned to him that you like, and he's playing a playlist in your car of all the songs that you told him that you listened to and the artists that he probably saw from your Twitter or wherever. And you're like, what? You eat the same foods I do, and you got me these gifts, and you're opening the car door, and you smell so nice, and you're so tall, and this is so fun, and boop, boop, boop. And you end the night, and it's perfect, and you're getting deep, and you're getting vulnerable. And then the next morning, he tells you, I just want to be friends.
That's unsettling.
You're shook because you activated a confirmation bias. You told yourself, these behaviors only come from somebody who is seriously invested and interested in a relationship. And when this person shows up as that, I will know that it is 100% real and legit right away. If that sounds like you, I love you. You're me. I'm sorry. Because the way that you care and love people is setting you up to be hurt. I am not telling you to change who you are or how you are. I'm just inviting you to take a step back at the way that you're dating and go, dang, am I trying to put people in boxes? Am I the judgmental one? Am I the closed-minded one? Am I the small-minded one? Do I have a limited aperture and range for the type of people I want to date? Why do I keep getting hurt when I say what I want and I only engage with people who say that that's what they want? Shouldn't that be ultimate clarity? And the uncomfortable, unsettling answer is, mm-mm. You like that? Mm-mm. The uncomfortable, unsettling answer is, you are only engaging with this limited range of people who are either 100% honest and just aren't into you, and that's why they leave, or they're lying to you, and that's why they leave when you don't give them what other weird thing that they want, or when they're just done with you or bored with you. The thing that probably stresses you out, creative dater, because it stressed me out, is that you don't want to go with the flow. You want what you want. And it's embarrassing and awkward and painful and weird and honestly triggering to think back into your history when you were not wanted and try to be this adult who's like actively telling people, especially complete strangers, what you want out of romance. And it's unsettling to not get that time after time. You start to wonder, are you asking for too much? Are you enough? The answer is yes, you are. Of course you are. But you start to wonder, are you enough? Are you in the wrong town? Is your profile incorrect? Are you swiping wrong? do you smell funny? Like, you start wondering what's up. And
That's unsettling.
it's very unsettling. So going with the flow and these people that you run into that seem to be neither here nor there. I promise you nothing pisses me off more. Because I'm type A, and this is the last bell pepper for those of you who are sick of my chewing. Because I'm type A and I want things to be black or white, and I want to go from point A to point B and then to Z. It pisses me off when I run into people who, because I'm very impatient. I have to recognize that within myself. I become very impatient when I run into people who don't seem to know or be able to communicate to me exactly what they're looking for. Because I think highly of myself, I believe that I am somebody who is worth being sure about. I do. I believe that I am someone who is worthy of your certainty. And when you don't give that to me, I feel rejected. I feel insulted sometimes, even. Like I take it very personally. I feel sensitive, feel like you're not into me. When in reality, and this takes more emotional dexterity, this takes more resilience, more endurance. If I'm willing to stick it out with you through your uncertainty, things might change in my favor. If I'm willing to take that risk and not gamble with you, that you might turn around and say, actually, Joy, after thinking hard about it, actually, Unsettler, I'm really into you. And it just took me a few weeks or a few months or some loneliness or some solitude or vacation or another date with my ex or whatever. It took me all of this to figure that out, that I want to be with you. If I was willing to take that risk, I might find that golden reward. And that is the essence of
Dating unsettled.
is that we're not willing to take risks. Not all of us. Some of you are. And so you're obviously like, oh, that's not me. Well, then great. I'm glad it's not you. But the likelihood is, if you clicked on this episode and you've been listening this far, it's because you really resonate with what I'm saying. You're like, I don't want to take a risk with somebody who seems uncertain when I am certain. And you start to put yourself like on this pedestal, like because I am assured of what I want, that is better than being unassured of what I want. And that's a judgment call that you're making. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that that is the lens, that's the perspective through which you are choosing to see your dating life. That you are better than, perhaps, or you are more worthy than, you are more ready than those who say that they're open to it all, or those who don't know what they're open to, or those who are just starting to date. So you're limiting yourself to those people. And I limited myself to those people because it was easier, it was more efficient, it seemed cleaner. But again, that just drove me, after closing my aperture, that drove me into a tiny little corner where I was only meeting people who either wanted relationships and just didn't want me, which is no problem. Those are the people that I want to meet because eventually you'll meet your partner. Or I was meeting people who were lying. And so the short story I want to tell before I go through, like, I'm going to give you tips or whatever. This isn't a dating advice podcast, but the Unsettler requests are meant to give advice. So I try. The way that I met my partner is I was looking in that very type A mode for somebody who was ready for what I was ready for, who was looking for a committed, monogamous, serious, exclusive, deep, vulnerable, exciting, adventurous, loving relationship. That's what I wanted. And when I met my partner, he had a lot of those qualities, right? Insert confirmation bias here. He seemed to have a lot of those qualities, but he expressed at the time that we like matched with each other that isn't exactly what he was looking for at that time. That he would someday, but like at that very time that I met him wasn't what he was looking for. So I bounced. I used my hardball and I was like, oh, that's not what you want. Cool. I'm going to go in this direction. Why? Because I wasn't willing to, in my head, waste. Really, it's spend. I chose to view it as a waste. But I wasn't willing at that time to spend active time and energy deeply getting to know this person when I felt like, you know what, this is someone I could get feelings for fast and I don't want to be hurt. Spending, not wasting. but I don't want to be hurt spending a long time in a scenario where I will have a lot of care for him and I won't get that back. So I bounced. I was like, that's cool. We can stay connected on Instagram, whatever, but I'm going to keep dating and I'm going to keep going out and I'm going to keep looking cute and I'm going to keep looking for that person that feels just as ready as I do. And I was not open. I 100% was not open to pursuing a relationship with that person because he didn't accept that person, my current boyfriend, because he didn't express that he wanted the same thing I wanted. So I like downranked him in my head. I deprioritized him in my head. And that was a judgment call. And instead, I ran into, like I said, a lot of the liars or just like the misfitting for me. And eventually, what was funny is though he didn't feel ready, we had that like in person interaction. I flew out, I spent more time with him, and he was like, I wasn't ready before, but now I am. Right. So there's risk and reward. I took a risk finally after a couple months of building up my resilience or my apathy. Ask yourself, unsettler, are you building resilience or
That's
apathy?
unsettling.
I don't know what it was at that point, but I was either so tired or so strong that I said, I don't care where this goes. Let's just figure it out. And he was like, sure. And we didn't quite go with the flow. But he did ask me for a little bit more flexibility, right, to see like what this would turn out to be, how often we would meet, how often we would talk. He kind of set the pace for those things. So in that essence, I now, I the type A dater, I the super swiper, I the investor, I had to go with his flow. It wasn't the flow. It wasn't some ambiguous flow. Like when people say go with the flow, I'm like, which flow? Is it a flow owned by you, aka your pace, your timing? Is it my flow or is it God's timing? And if so, like that stresses me out. You see, I already want answers, but he couldn't give me any promises. He couldn't give me any guarantees. He said as much, but he said, I like you, which was really great. Like, I need that affirmation. He said, I like you. I'm interested in you. I wasn't dating, but here you are. And now I want to see where this could go. So we have to keep nurturing this. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was over the moon because at that point I was feeling now more ready. And so here we go, like red, 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 red alert, not flag, but red alert. I started to get triggered around all those times where I would care about somebody or be invested in somebody and feel more ready than they were because that's kind of what it felt like with my partner. So he's exploring and I'm going on his flow and his pace and his timing. And that put me in a place of feeling emotionally unsafe.
That's unsettling.
That put me in a place of being like, am I going to like overshoot you? Am I making this risk? And then I'm going to feel way deeper than you do. And I'm going to care way more. And I'm going to want to be in a relationship more. And you're not. So, like, I needed a lot of constant reassurance from him, criticism from him. I wanted his honest fears, his honest takes. And he gave me all of that. And the more and more I could open up about what was making me nervous as we settled into our dating situation, the more and more I felt like I could trust him. And he was showing me that, like, hey, even though I wasn't in that place that you are, even though I'm going with the flow and you're going with like super intention, this is still a place that both of us can be, right? We can be moving on different speeds of the conveyor belt in the same place and still coexist and still potentially find love from this. This requires an extremely emotionally mature, open, communicative partner, but I believe that people can be there. And I also believe that me opening up, based on what he told me, encouraged him to open up, right? So if you are that dater who's like, well, I'm the super fast one, and I'm the super mushy one, and I'm super emotional and vulnerable, and they're just not, and I'm not getting that from him. I'm not getting that from her. She's not, they're not. It's like, have you ever considered the effect you might have on someone? I'm not telling you to teach somebody, train somebody, therapize somebody. Absolutely not. But when you share more of you, pure you, scared you, vulnerable you, happy you, wishful thinking you, optimistic you, positive you, proactive you, intentional you, when you share that with somebody who may not seem to be in the exact same place that you are, they might start to receive it. They might start to mirror you because they like you and they're comfortable with you. So I'm not telling you to expect somebody to be someone that they're not, but I'm telling you perhaps leave room. I'm inviting you. I ain't telling you to do jack, but I am inviting you to leave room for that person that doesn't seem as ready as you are to be fully committed, and go with the flow. How long do you have to go with the flow? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 2 days? Is it four? There's a there's a love advisor, I don't know what to call him, love expert, relationship expert, Sean Galanos, the love drive. And he often says, like, as long as it makes sense for you. People love to ask and inquire, how long do I go with the flow for somebody else, before it drives me crazy? How long should I stick out this situationship, this uncertain, blah, blah, blah? As long as it makes sense for you. And when it doesn't make sense for you, when it's starting to tear you apart, when it's making you super insecure, when you begin to act out and act differently and act out of character because of that insecurity, you're starting to neg the other person. You're starting to be paranoid towards the other person, or you're feeling needy or clingy or desperate and you don't feel like you can voice it and it's getting, when that starts to happen, sweetie, it is okay to say, hey, I'm not feeling like myself in this situation because I'm lacking the affirmation that I would typically find. I think I'm just going to take a step back, and then you communicate. Are you open to them stepping to you when they are more ready, or are you not? And so I expressed to my boyfriend at the time, who wasn't my boyfriend, right? I expressed to my now boyfriend, I said, I'm feeling like scared and nervous and like really excited about this situation. I don't know where it's going to go, but like my door is open, my heart is open to you. And that's like a super scary thing to say. Sometimes I feel like we come at it like it's some kind of competition. Some of us have been raised to feel or think that affection and honesty and vulnerability is like a tit for tat in a competition. So if I give this to you and you don't give this to me, you've just insulted me. And so I hope you can get away from the games for a minute, because that's men and women and people playing games. When you think that if I'm open, you need to be open right away. If not, that's a slight. And then if not, I'm going to not be open to you the next time. That's games. If you want the type of relationship where you are open, honest, and affectionate and vulnerable, then I encourage you from the get-go and for as long as you safely can to be open, honest, intentional, direct, vulnerable, regardless of what the other person is giving you.
That's unsettling.
Regardless of what the other person is giving you, I encourage you to just keep giving it. Because going with the flow is frustrating. But if you can be the pillar, maybe it's your faith, but if you can be the pillar for you, that throughout this flow, I'm going to just keep being me, then I think you'll have a more resilient time of dating. If you remain yourself, even in uncertain waters, then the next situation that you get into, you're going to feel a lot less rocked. You weren't melting down, breaking down, chipping away pieces of yourself to better fit that person's desires or that person's pace or situation. You remained yourself, but you left your heart open. You left your ooh, you left your heart open. You left your mind open to the fact that that person was feeling differently from you at the time, and that could positively change in your favor. You little optimistic duck. Wouldn't you be so proud of yourself in this uncertain situation if you got to the end of it and you said, you know what? I stayed myself the whole time. I remained open to the fact that things could positively change in my favor. I took risks, whether or not they pay off, whether or not I buy this flight, whether or not I spend this time, whether or not I get dressed up for this date and it works out or not. I was brave enough to take a risk, and I'm not going to hold it against the other person. I'm not going to turn the person into a villain for not being as assured as I was. I was just me. I came. I expected nothing but decency. Oh my gosh. I keep hitting the mic. Okay. But I came. I expected nothing but decency. I loved. I cared. I showed up. I was consistent. I was me. And maybe it didn't pay off, but I did it. So when you get into that next situation, you're a lot less jolted. You feel a lot more like yourself. And what you're doing is you're actually helping yourself out, because the next person is going to see you the way that you like to be seen, which is as yourself. I'm assuming that most of you like to be seen for who you are in this statement. So if you stay you, even in this unfavorable or uncertain or risky dating situation, you are setting yourself up well for the next one that you get into. where that person's going to see you exactly as you are because you did not change. You didn't change because they were petty. You didn't change because they were a little finicky, because they were late, because they were mean, because they were negging, because they were breadcrumbing, because they ghosted. You stayed you. And in turn, it was easier, quicker, more loving for the next person to come across you who's really interested in you. Okay, so for those of you who want to consider this way of dating differently, of dating,
Dating unsettled.
for those of you who want to consider it, let's talk about going with the flow. I would say that if you're somebody who's really intentional, try to wind it back. If you're somebody who's hyper positive, right, optimistic, try being a bit more realistic. See the person for who they are and how they show up, and just go for what feels right in the moment, not for where you want to feel. You need to take steps to get to the door. You can't just go straight to the door. That sounded really lame, but you know what I meant, right? I'm somebody who sees the door and I see what's beyond the door and I see the whole room and I see the house and take the steps. So if you are a fast train, a bullet train of emotions and affirmations and affection, and you latch on quickly and you dream positively and you see that stuff really fast, I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm just saying try pacing yourself, try taking that breath and seeing your dating situation for what it is and not what it could be. Just a little bit. And then next, I would say tell the person how you date and how you love and how affectionate you are, because that's really going to help them, right? So voicing to somebody, which again, it can feel scary. Sometimes it feels like you're giving them a secret weapon when you tell them, hey, I'm insecure about, right? I feel nervous when, I'm scared that. That feels like you're handing somebody a weapon when you're playing competitively. Remember that you're not playing this dating game competitively. You are playing it collaboratively. The person that you are dating is not an opponent. They're not a villain. They're not against you. They are somebody who could potentially, and when I say person you're dating, this could be a dating app match, but try not thinking of this person as being against you and you giving up points and giving up secrets. You're sharing, you're collaborating, because both of you could potentially win and find something amazing. Next is, I would say, something that I've heard before, which is worry is a prayer for the devil. So whether or not this resonates with your religion or your spiritual connection, worrying is not going to help you in your dating scenario. Running to your friends, running to the internet is only going to help you so much. And I would talk to friends, and I would Google things online, and I would watch Instagram psychologists and stuff, but ultimately, you communicating directly with the person that you're going out with or you matched with or whatever, what you want out of the scenario is going to help you much more than worrying about it on your own. Remember, you're creative. Like, you're very, very creative. You're brilliant. You know what? Like, you know what I mean? You're kind of very smart and you're very imaginative. So your imagination, though it is your superpower, can sometimes and has sometimes been working against you. And when you fear the worst, you can see the worst. Oh my God, you're so creative, you can almost feel the worst happening before it has even materialized. I'm in this picture and I don't
That's
like it.
unsettling.
So I want you to think about opening your aperture just a little bit, unsettlers, to people who may not be in the same place as you. It's going to be tougher. It's not going to be as clean cut. You're going to have to wade through some gray area, but that would be dating differently from what the internet is encouraging you to do. And there are poorly intentioned people who will encourage you to date uncertainty because they want you to be able to accept less. Know that I'm not doing that. I'm encouraging you to date through uncertainty and to take some risks to get rewarded, because you might find more than you've been finding only going for those people who give you very binary responses.
That's
Oh.
unsettling.
Is are we feeling okay? It started as a funny episode, I think. I'm gonna give myself that. I think we started being very ha ha he he kiki. And we ended up mucking around. But I think it's okay. Like I think we ended up in an emotional place. And I like that you were able to go there with me. I thank you for listening, not just in the way that I always do when I exit, but like I truly thank you for being here. Thousands of people have been exposed to dating unsettled at this point, and it's like very, very scary to think about. I'm gonna give you the exact number because I just want you to be able to share in this success with me. But it's getting crazy in here. It's getting busy. Last time I checked, it was 8,000 people and or 8,000 plays. Oh my gosh, we're almost to 9,000. And that's with like no marketing, nothing. The only marketing for Dating Unsettled is that I maintain a couple social media accounts for free. So the fact that every week hundreds or thousands of people are discovering the show is crazy to me and is very, very touching. Let me go ahead and give you a hand for showing up. Okay, and then we do our favorite part. Thanks for listening, Unsettlers. Follow Dating Unsettled for weekly episodes wherever podcasts are found, so you don't miss an episode of your new favorite show. If you can't get enough of me, subscribe to my newsletter at datingunsettled.com. DM me your dating stories on Instagram at Dating Unsettled. I want to know how it's going for you. See you next week.
Dating unsettled.